Right, we're recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Lovely People webinar with Deborah away. The girls are left to play. And we have lovely Steve Adair tonight with us. How are you, Steve?
I'm very well, thank you. And I'm very delighted to be here with you lovely people.
Yay! We do meet lovely people. We were just saying that. And we invite them all to come on our webinars. So, Steve, we were going to ask you if you would be happy to share with us your journey of how you came across the principles, if that's all right.
Sure, I'd be delighted to, and it's always interesting what kind of, So I came across the principles 7 years ago. My background is psychotherapy. I studied soul coaching, I studied hypnotherapy, I studied NLP. I did a lot of studying to help me become a better therapist. I guess I was what you would say one of life's searchers, seekers, in order to find the next kind of thing that I could help with people. And I kind of reluctantly, I kind of chuckle when I say that, I reluctantly, when I came across the principles, I didn't want to hear. I heard from my partner, Tony, and he had gone up to London and had this amazing weekend and came back full of it, saying, "Oh, it's spiritual, you will love it, it's fantastic." What I heard was yada, 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 yada. I just wasn't interested because I was full. I was at the time of my life that I had done a little bit too much. And I was just ready to take a refresher in my psychotherapy after 18 years. And something else coming in was just too much. So I decided that I would go along, and I didn't like how I was responding. Because when Tony was saying something, I'd be like, "Yep, okay, you've told me that before." And I always prided myself in being open-minded. And here I wasn't being open-minded. So I decided that I would go along. And I thought it was just a one-day thing. But it ended up it was 2 days. And the experience that I had was something very familiar to me when I was a child. Something that when I was living in Scotland, where we lived, we had the little rocks and the big rocks. And the big rocks is what they are. You can climb up them, but they have the rolling fields behind them. And when we used to go and play hide and go seek, I would go and find a place in nature and become so still that no one could find me. And in the end, I'd have to, "Okay, I'm here, you can find me," because everybody was going home. And I thought everybody did that. I just thought this was something that we all were used to doing. And that Saturday that I'd gone there, even though I was like, everything that was being said, well, psychology says this, psychology says that, I was kind of really in the role of thought, where I really was using thought not in a helpful way. And despite that, what happened was this feeling. Something familiar arrived. And I seemed to become much more relaxed and much more present to what I was hearing. So I really enjoyed that. I thought, well, this is what it's about, then yeah, I'll listen to more of this. And we went back the next day, and where there was 7 people the first day, there was 40 the next. And there was nothing in it. To me, it was just too busy. There was no feeling there. It was really nice hearing what the people had said, but I was left back up in the role of thought. So I was back in yada, yada, yada land. And, you know, when we get lost or seduced by the role of thought, it becomes so comfortable that we can't see anything but that role as it kicks in. So this was something that I was very comfortable in. Even though I didn't like the feeling I was getting from it, I was very comfortable. And then I went to listen to Jack Pransky in London. And for those who listen to Jack, Jack is a really special man, and he comes from a really great place. But I still psychotherapied everything out of it. I looked at, well, psychology would say this, psychology would say that. But again, this feeling was there that I was, okay, I'm feeling a bit more relaxed. But of course, by the time I thought about it, long story short, Tony asked me, did I want to go to Canada? Knowing that it was always a place that I wanted to go. So we go off to Canada, but I have it that when he tells me there was this man called Sid Banks and he was Scottish, then I was interested being Scottish myself. And then when he says, oh, but he's died, I was like, oh, okay, yada, yada, yada. I'm not interested in hearing about someone then like that. And he told me about Chip Chipman and Elsie Spittle and how they take this school in Salt Spring. And so I wouldn't look at who Sydney Banks was. I wouldn't look at who Elsie or Chip was. I wouldn't look at anything else. I thought, if this is really that great, and if it's inside of me, then why would I go looking somewhere else? So what I did look at, though, was what Salt Spring Island was. And I saw that you could go whale watching. I saw that you could hire bikes and go around this stunning island. I saw also that there was a First Nations part of the island. I've always, since a baby, been interested in Native cultures. So, especially Native American people, and here was Native Canadians. And they had an altar and all that on this island. So that was my itinerary. That's what I was doing. I wasn't going to this school. I say to Tony, I'll go along for the first morning, and if I don't like it, I don't have to do the rest, right? And that was the done deal. So I knew I wasn't going to like it. So we go along for the meet and greet. And have you ever been somewhere that you've laughed so much that it hurts? Your cheeks hurt. And you think, oh my God, will these people just shut up? And it was just meet and greet. It was just meeting other people. But I kind of say, have you ever seen that movie? It's an older movie now, Cocoon, where it's about the older people where they kind of come back to take over Earth and so on. But they're just full of this most indescribable happiness. And that's what it was like with these people who'd been around Sid in the early days, who'd been living with this understanding for 20, 30 years. And they weren't sharing, they were just living. And I got into bed, and this thought just came into my head when I said to Tony, my cheeks are still so sore from laughing. And when I went quiet, I said, I've forgotten how to laugh. I've forgotten how to really just be in the moment. And that's reminded me of that tonight. And then I woke up the next day and I was back in yada, yada, yada. Today's the day that I'm going whale watching and so on. So I go along and Chip and Elsie are talking. And at some point after the first break, Elsie's speaking about something. And to this day, I still don't remember what it was, but it would have been surrounding the three principles. I noticed there was a speck. My leg was crossed and I noticed there was a speck or something on my jean. So I was flicking my jean. And as I looked down, this most indescribable feeling shot through my body, but it went like exactly at the same time from my center up to my head, down to my feet and back again. And as I put my head back, I couldn't see anything but light. And as I sat in that space, there was no thought at all. Now, I didn't know that at that time because I was just in this looking, but not looking with my eyes, my human eyes. And as I rested there, I heard them over the speaker saying, everybody's in such a good feeling. Let's just have a break. And my legs get up and I start walking. And Tony says, where are you going? I says, I'm going to speak to one of them. And he's like, okay. So I think I'm going to Chip because he's the nearest. But someone cuts in front of me. So I'm standing in front of Elsie. And I thought I was going to say something like, what just happened there? I just had this experience. But I was standing in front of her and I say, Elsie, I haven't got a clue what you're saying or what you've just said, but I've just come home. And as I said those words, that feeling did exactly the same again, where it spread from my head to my toes. And all she said was, well, that's lovely, my dear.
Oh.
And it was the best gift that she gave me. She left me in my well-being.
Yeah.
And I go back to the seat and Tony says, what did you say to Elsie? Now I'm back in yada yada a little bit and I'm like, what did I say to Elsie? I've just come home. What does that mean? But the more I looked towards that direction, the more that feeling You know, when you stand and you watch an ocean come in and out, I was aware that it wasn't that I was breathing, it was breathing me. And the stillness that I felt, it wasn't something I was creating, it was creating me. And I saw in all its truth in that moment that when I say I've come home, that we're all home. And in that moment, our true nature of home is when we fall out of our psychological numbness. When we fall out of this identity that we've made up through the illusionary nature of thought. And I lost completely all sense of who I was. And because it was the most beautiful feeling that I could say it was love, but it wasn't the kind of love like, well, I want to buy you flowers, I want to buy you chocolate, or there was no, it's just a word to describe something that I really can't describe. But yet this feeling had me within 10 minutes. Chip and Elsie had said, you know, you guys are just so relaxed, let's just go enjoy the day. So 10 minutes later from having that experience, we were walking out the car park and I said to Tony, I haven't still got a clue what happened, but I'm going to share this for the rest of my life. And since then, I no longer could see any of my training in the same way. I couldn't see life in the same way. I couldn't see me in the same way. And then there was moments that I did. Then there was moments I remembered the illusory nature of thought. But what I really saw is an excitement that that's the dance that we all do. The form and the formless, like the ocean going in and out, is a natural flow of who we truly are. Yeah. And we get lost in an illusion when we think we can change that, or we think that we run the show. And I saw in that moment, no, I'm not creating life. Life is creating me. The spiritual intelligence that Sydney Bank pointed us to from 1973 allows us to see that when we get out of our way, we are magnificent in the moment. Yeah. And I saw in that time that, you know, when I said at the beginning I was a searcher, a seeker, I saw that what I was trying to do was escape the moment. I was constantly trying to make it better instead of realizing that the moment was perfect. And I just saw that I was on that treadmill of doing that. And I saw innocently how we all do that because we think that's what it should be done. We think we have to live in the world of doing. But I saw that really there is such a beautiful sacredness inside of us. And that sacredness is so unique. Yet in my sacredness, I can sense your sacredness and you can sense mine. And I saw that there's that connection. You know, when I said when I was younger and I used to go and play hide and go seek and I got lost and I became so at one with nature, I saw that we're nature. We have the same thought storms. You know, like we've had this snow and everybody's been, oh, it's terrible, this, oh, I wish it would clear off and so on. That's just like our thinking. When it's thunder and lightning outside, we can have thought storms. It's the biggest thunder and lightning storm ever. But we also have beautiful summer warm days. We have beautiful breezes. And I've noticed that we create them all. And I didn't like that at the beginning. And I didn't like it because I knew it was true. You ever had that where it's just like, oh, I wish they would shut up. I know it's kind of my uncomfortability. But so I kind of just, when I really saw that. But you know what I've loved about seeing the principles is that I can look back and see innocently that we're all doing the best that we possibly can at every given moment. I wasn't good at giving myself those moments. I would go into supervision or go to seek, how can I heal? How can I be mended? And I saw that everything that I need is inside that sacredness. And I saw that misunderstanding or mental health comes when we see ourselves as separate from that. When we live ourselves as being separate from our sacredness, that's where life is outside in. But life is truly inside out. And I also saw that one of the things that I always wanted to do was shut the ego down or shut the intellect down. And I actually saw that we never can do that. But we can understand what it is. And in that understanding, it takes like the sting out of the tail. It doesn't allow it. It's like the awareness comes in. Because what I've noticed is this thing that we called wisdom. And wisdom, as I love when Sid would say, it's the purity of thought before the contamination of the human experience. So when we have that wisdom come into our consciousness, and we have the free will to whatever way we decide to look at it, from the personal thought or before thought, then my sacredness is different, even though it's the same energy. Even saying it needs to be the same feeling, or it needs to be the same wisdom, or it needs to be the same sacredness. I've given up in knowing that we are equipped to deal with every experience beautifully, naturally, in the moment. And the only thing it tells me that it isn't is me. How powerful is that? We are our best friend to hang around, and then at times it looks like we're our worst enemy. But those two, when they actually come together, I see when I'm in my moments of, can you please stop the world and let me off, please? Or one of the most common things is when we're really tired and like Grumpy Bear comes out, and tired and hungry Grumpy Bear really comes out. But again, it's wisdom letting us know this is what you need to do to look after yourself. Totally. So there's much more gentle, I believe, soul whispers that we hear. We're constantly being guided with every breath that we take from mind, thought, and consciousness. And I saw that that's my truth. It's our truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Mm-hmm. And it's not our job to evolve. As Steve Adair, I cannot spiritually evolve. It's truth's job to evolve us. And truth comes from the intelligence behind all things. When I heard that, I was like, okay, I need to sit down. Because that really moved me so profoundly when I heard that. Because it let me see all those years that I searched. I don't regret it, because I've met some beautiful people and learned wonderful things. But just this space to be in the moment of creation, you see that truth isn't a thinking process. So the true nature of the principles isn't a thinking process. It's understanding that we are the thinker, full stop. And I loved that, because it allowed me to see the difference between living in a place of attitude, yada, 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 or gratitude. And I loved seeing the changes then, what Tony was experiencing, until I didn't, because I knew that when he stopped talking about these three principles, yet a work experience was happening. And he was a manager of a homeless charity, and one of the members of staff was a maverick. And he used to come home and say, I don't want to get her into trouble, but she really needs to pull into line, and da-da-da. And then that stopped. And when it stopped, I'd be like, so how's such and such? Yeah, she's fine. So what, is she doing what you've asked her now? No, she's still doing what she's doing. And I was like, you're okay with it? Yeah, I'm fine. We'll work it out somehow. And I was like, okay. And that gave me the invitation to wake up. It gave me the invitation to see that in my yada, yada, yadas, what I was doing was psychologically putting myself to sleep. And the role of thought begins to seduce us and hypnotize us and takes us off down a road that sometimes feels so familiar that we can't see anything but that. And of course, I think our psychology is to be familiar. We're very good at doing routines. When we see our true nature in action, I don't think it has a routine, but yet it gives us the power to create those routines, because wherever you point your intention, the energy is going to follow. Where intention goes, energy flows. So if I'm thinking negative, then consciousness is going to say, okay, you're thinking, let's experience it. When I started seeing it that way, I was like, oh my God, we're incredible. We are really magnificent in action with these three principles. And there is nothing we can do about that. When I started seeing that, there's nothing that we can do, even though it looks like it at times, but there is nothing that we can do to stop ourselves from being magnificent. How beautiful is that?
It's lovely, isn't it? So powerful.
And I didn't see that because I always saw there was somewhere for me to get to. But I've seen that wisdom clears our system out. You know, when you're on the beach and you write something on a beach and then the ocean comes in and it takes it? Yeah. That's how I see it. It's like our soul coming in and just cleansing. And soul is pure consciousness. Our system does that for us. No matter how much yada, yada, yada we're doing, yes, we are part of a system. It's creating that and cleansing and purifying everything that we are. And that's our truth. And for me, when I started then listening to Sid, what I loved about, one of the first things that I really heard him say was, don't be a follower. I love that because I followed all my life. In my not thinking I was good enough, I would be a follower. And then I'd get everybody's books and they were great. And then I would speak to friends about them and then, oh, they've got the latest one coming out. And then you thought you were great. Yeah. When you got this person's book, have you got it before your friend? Oh yeah, I've got it and it's brilliant. I'm on chapter 3. And yeah, that excitement and all that was there. But I see that everything that we need is inside. Every single thing that we need is inside. So our searching can stop. And when we begin to look inside, we see that sacredness. We see home. But not with our 5 senses. We see an energy, we feel an energy that allows our 5 senses to come alive. We see an energy that allows our psychology to be alive. And without our spiritual nature, as what Sid uncovered so beautifully, without that spiritual energy coming in, we would have no psychology. I likened it last night when I was doing the group to like when we want to watch something on the television, we need a source, we need a power to plug it into. So we've plugged it. And then the little light comes on, so we know that we've got the power. And so we see consciousness, we feel, okay, something's happening. And then we see the screen and we see what's on there, and thought allows us to see the role. And those 3 are beautiful, and they need to be working in coordinates with one another to see what's going on. And what I loved was that in all my studying that I had done innocently, was not told about the role of thought and how Sid saw it, and how that thought really is the missing link between all psychology and spirituality. And what I love about it is I remember at the beginning saying, okay, if this thing is so good, what's the longevity of it? And I'd heard Elsie's name once, and then all of a sudden into my thought came Elsie Spitter, and I was like, yeah, what about her? And it's like, okay, I'm the one that's just said that. And I said to Tony, how long has this woman been around it? And then I think it was like 38 years. So that shut me up. That stopped that yada yada up. And I just saw that when you listen to, and I've seen it in myself, I watched a video that I did right at the beginning. I think it was the 3 Principles movies, and to where I am now. Have you ever done that where you see? Because I think what begins to happen is that it just becomes part of our day-to-day living the more you understand your inside-out nature.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will say, oh, have you been on holiday? No. Oh, you're looking really healthy. And it's like, well, what did I look like before then? I've not been on holiday, and they think that I look really healthy now. So we begin to see that we can see people's well-beings on the form. And that's the thing before, where you used to have to look and wonder what was going on, but we begin to see, and people see that in us without even knowing what's been happening. So that's how I heard the principles. I know it's a little bit of a going around the house's way, but I did tell you that when I get a flow, I do like to talk. So
that's
please excuse me if I went too long.
It's very good listening to you. You do speak very beautifully. I haven't heard you talk for a while. It's been a few years.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was lovely. I just love what you were just saying then about the simplicity of the principles, and Deb often says this one, and I can relate to it. And I think me and Julie were talking about it today, about, you know, it's just in the simplest of tasks every day. As Deb always gives the example of peeling potatoes, and you can be the most blissful, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's just nothing to do with anything other than your feeling in the moment.
Absolutely.
You know,
we have a standing joke when we first heard. So what I did was that I stayed on the 4 days at the school. I didn't go whale watching. We did on the break go down to the First Nations, but I did stay on it. And we found out then that it was the then Tikkun conference was in London, and Chip and Elsie and Jan were coming over to speak about it. So we asked would they come to Brighton and do something at the homeless charity that Tony was working at, and do an event. And we spent 5 days with them. And, you know, we didn't speak about the principles once. But we had the most beautiful experience of our life, just hanging out and just enjoying life. And one of the days, Elsie was, and I can't remember what it was, and somebody says they fancy, I think we're doing bagels, and someone says, should we do scrambled egg and salmon and different stuff? So I was doing the scrambled egg, and Elsie says, are you doing Sid eggs? And I said, well, what is Sid eggs? And she says, well, one of the times when I was going over and I had an insight, and I thought, I've got to tell Sid. And as I went there, he was doing scrambled eggs. And I went to say something, and he put his hand up. And she says he was stirring so slow. So slow. And I was thinking, oh my God, hurry up. I need to tell you this. And he was finished, and then he served up and he put the plate down, she says, and he didn't say a word, but she says, oh my goodness, they were the fluffiest, creamiest eggs that I'd ever tasted. So she says, how are you going to do your eggs? And I was standing there stirring really fast, and she says, because that lets you know what your level of consciousness and thought is doing. And I was like, okay. So we joke, we're like, are you going to do Sid eggs today, or are you? It really can be, because I think when we naturally slow down, we see that our world from that advantage point. Our consciousness is clear, so we're feeling the experience even more clearly. Yeah. So simple things like peeling the potatoes, walking the dog, whatever, just becomes a beautiful part. And the principles, because they're neutral when they come into our experience, and because the nature of the principles is every second there is a neutral mind, thought, and consciousness coming into our experience. Every single second, which means that every single second we have a brand new thought. Which means that if I look down and I look up again, I can see you as if I've never seen you before. And I love that. That we can get to see ourselves like never before. Regardless of our past and the thinking that we've had, or whatever we project ourselves in the future, we have the ability, our system was built to give us this moment like never before. So when I do my eggs, sometimes they're Sid eggs and sometimes they're not. But it's just a way of letting me know, so this is where I am today then. And it's great that we can have fun, isn't it, with ourselves in that way.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
I really do love seeing that we can have so much fun.
Yes, I think it's our birthright to have fun.
Absolutely.
Most definitely. That's one
Yeah.
of the biggest things that's changed for me since coming across the principles is the amount I have fun now, because it's just things just don't look anywhere near as serious when you can see the role of thought at play. you know just lightens the whole experience, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So shall we see if anyone's got any questions?
Sure.
Probably have a little quiet bunch.
I would like that if anyone's got any comments or questions, or
Put your hand up. You can just unmute yourself if anyone's got anything to ask our lovely Steve about his eggs. If not, you just have to talk some more, Steve.
Sure.
Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I feel slightly anaesthetised in a really lovely way. It's been a while since I've heard you speak, Steve, and it's lovely. And going forward, making eggs, you've picked up forever for me now. Yeah, so no question, but it's just a joy to hear you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And what's beautiful about that is that I hear that Julie is resting in her sacredness. And that's beautiful. Nothing about me. I always hope that I come from my sacredness. And my hope is that people wake up to theirs. And the sacredness is behind the psychological experience and powering our psychology. But isn't it interesting that when we are resting in that sacredness, we use words like, I'm just so relaxed, I feel still. There was a woman last night at our group who'd never heard the principles. And she says, when I hear you guys talk, I just feel so free. And I want to giggle. I just feel so free. And then I got scared. I thought, oh no, you don't want to be free, because no, you can't be happy. And God love her, you could just see the role of thought in action. You could just see it coming in. And when we were kind of just gently pointing this out to her, it was beautiful just to see. And the message we got this morning from her, and this is someone in her 70s, and she says this is the freest in her life that she's ever felt.
Aww.
And the beautiful thing about that, I say again, that was nothing about Tony and I. That was something that she had within herself. Something that's sustainable because it's who she truly is. And when we allow ourselves to be in our sacred space, people can't help but feel that, because it's who they truly are. Our psychology separates us because it tells me I'm male, you're female, you come from a different part of the world, you look different. And we have all these stories of separation. But in this great feeling of intelligence, it really unifies us as one. And when we start seeing that oneness, we see that the principles are really facts. And the part it separates us is just the stories of our illusion. Our innocence of seeing where we thought life came from, or where we think life came from. And then it allows us to not live in the facts from the past. I was so good at having a court and getting the judge, getting the people to prosecute me and find me guilty until I sacked them. They never really did or gave me the happy ever after ending that I would have liked, because I wasn't looking through that lens. But I see that that's the game that we play. And the more you look through that lens of misunderstanding, the more consciousness is going to back it up. It's going to give us, where intention goes, the energy flows. So it's going to allow us to have the experience. And then we become so seduced by our thinking. And we act out from that place innocently. But I love, because what I was hearing from Julie, she's not, in that space there, she's not living in her past. She's living right now. She's feeling the moment. There's not any add-ons, nowhere to get to, but just in that place. And her understanding of that feeling of home, of love. And you know what gets really exciting is that the more that we hang out there, we start, I don't know if it's reinventing, because I don't think that the divine reinvents. It just gives us the power and the beauty to create whatever we want to. But I like the idea of reinventing. So let's just call it that for this moment.
All right.
That from that place, we get to create the new. And it's never, you ever noticed that it's never what you thought you would like?
Yep.
And that's what I think. We're much more simpler. We're much more at ease. We're much more chilled. With a little bit of feistiness thrown in, I think, for excitement. But I think we're a lot more naturally relaxed. I think we're much more like children in adult bodies. Only we hold on to what's going on. Children will let you know immediately. We think, oh, should I say it? Will they think bad of me? Oh my God, will they invite me back to the dinner party ever again if I say what I'm thinking? A child will just say it and go on with it. And then everybody else moves on because they just think it's a child. And I think that, not that I'm saying everybody from now on start being a child and telling everybody what you think, but I don't judge what I see in my thinking sometimes. Because I just see it's the illusion that I've created in the moment. And the principles allow us to really live life from wisdom. And wisdom is a space within, before the contamination of a human experience. And from there we see that love is what we are born with and fear is what we have learned. And I'm sure you've heard before that fear is false evidence appearing real.
Yep.
When we scare ourselves, it's not even real. There's something like between 10 to 20% of an actual recall of an experience is what we bring into the moment. Yet we live it. We've been telling ourselves 80% misunderstanding of something that's actually happened. Yet we live by it. We hold ourselves prisoner by it. And we see that thought has a zip wire. It can go back to any age and bring the experience right back and create it as if it's so real in the moment. But when we see that, there isn't the drama. There isn't the help me. There's just the moment that Julie shared. And there's just that stillness. And the ego doesn't know about that place. Because our ego is only what we've created ourselves. The ego is keying into a computer that 2 and 2 is 5. And there's a misunderstanding the whole way through. There's our thinking. Somewhere along the line, we misunderstood something. And all our innocence, we believed it is factual. And from that, a misunderstanding has been. And you know, when we hear something twice, it's a belief. And that belief runs the show behind the scenes. But wisdom knows about that. The intelligence knows about that. And that's why, just like the ocean coming into the sand, it can clear it. Have you ever, since you've had, I'm sure, the world of insight from inside of you, that something's happened and it's like, oh, I don't worry about that anymore. What's that about? Have you ever done that? It's like something that you maybe were, and it's just, you can't think about how it scared you before.
We had this conversation yesterday, me and Beck, and said,
there you go.
There's just so many simple things that, you know, as simple as I was actually saying to Beck, I just noticed that I don't regimentally change my bed on a Monday anymore. It just gets changed when it gets changed. And, you know, just stupid.
You rebel.
I know. And it just falls away. I do it from a relaxed place instead, and I change it every day now instead.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. And you know, it's really, it amazes me the simple ways that life just shows up then.
Yeah.
It really does. I remember years ago when I used to do hypnotherapy, and I used to do curative hypnotherapy. So it wasn't just relaxation, it was going back through the unconscious to when the experience was created. And I used to think it's like, you know, life when it happens, it doesn't go linear as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It might go 1, 100, 4, 3. So as the unconscious was changing it, then it would go back through those numbers again. Even that feels like hard work to explain that to someone when we just say, actually, I'm much more relaxed. I don't change my bed on a Monday. You know, it's like, and your well-being about it, and it's the simplicity of it that I love just seeing where people do show up, because you're seeing your world differently. And it might sound in a way it's like, well, I just don't change my bed, but it's what else would have been built onto that.
Yeah,
what you would have,
exactly.
the experience that you would have gone through. I need to change the bed, and life wouldn't have been the same unless the bed was changed. And it's just seeing. And when I say seeing, I don't mean from these eyes, because my eyes need help with these. I mean from within. And we point within as a metaphor, we point to our heart because it speaks of love, but you know what I'm saying. It's from divine mind, divine thought, and divine consciousness.
Yeah.
And in that place, our egos cannot invent the story. It cannot run the show from there. So we just rest in that place. And change our bed whenever we want.
I think mine needs changing, actually. It is funny though, you know, like, and when we talk to Deb as well, a lot of the time she says, like, one of her little stories is about how when she gets headaches and stuff, and she never notices when the headache just goes. It just goes.
Yeah.
You know, and her whole experience of having a headache these days is a lot lighter, and we've all, like, quite a few of us in the family have all been prone to migraines and stuff like that. And again, definitely, I don't know about yours, but my experience of migraines and stuff nowadays is just, yeah, I still get them occasionally, but the experience is just totally different. Totally different.
Yeah.
You know. And then there are just so many things in your life that you don't even realise that you've been thinking about, and it just drops. Or it, you know, like I say, it just lessens the experience if it doesn't drop away altogether. And especially when you're not, like, I think a lot of people when they first come around the principles are, right, well, I don't want to feel like this anymore, so how can we get rid of this? Oh no, it doesn't quite work like that.
Absolutely. It's like looking for, when we use this word truth, it's like looking for truth to change with the knowing. Yeah. Have you ever noticed that when change happened, it comes from this place of the unknown?
Yeah.
But it's our true knowing. Our true nature is our true knowing. But when I try to train things from my ego point of view, or understand things from my intellect point of view, it's just like rehashing old unwanted. It's like putting dirty washing in a wash machine cycle and forgetting to put the powder in, so it just stays dirty. It doesn't cleanse itself, it just recycles it, and then you ping it up and then you let it get dry and then you wear it. Nothing changes, it's just old recycled thoughts that we actually have.
Yeah, exactly.
And the principles are the best washing powder you can ever get. Because they really do cleanse from the inside out.
They smell pretty good too. Yeah, definitely. Go on.
I was just going to say, Steve, just before we started recording, we were talking a bit about what you're doing later on this year.
I wondered if you wanted to
Yes.
talk about that again, share with people what's happening for you in August, because it sounds...
I would love to, and thank you for giving that opportunity, and I've marked it down so I don't forget. But I was just saying that we just launched today with our friend Nikki Peters from Holland, where in August of this year we're running, we're calling it the Spirit Within Retreat in Ladakh in India. So it's a 10-day retreat, and when you get yourself to Ladakh, you're collected.
Ooh.
So you've actually, someone will collect you at the airport. You're taken to the accommodation. It's the Tibetan part. It's northern India, so it's the Tibetan part. And they say that the landscape around it is like being on the moon. So this time of the year right now, they're 30, 40 degrees because it's in the mountains. And I think it's only like 4 months of the year where they have the summer. So everyone right now in Ladakh is going to be sitting around their fires, just being with one another, and then they'll come out and then they'll live their life to the fullest, and then they get quiet. And they say it is, as a culture, they're the most relaxed people. And the place where it's going to be is near a Buddhist temple, a Buddhist monastery. And not because obviously we're Buddhists, but that's the place where Nikki is having her retreats. So we're really excited about it because we will do 2 immersions a day of the principles, very gentle ones. Nikki's a yoga teacher, so if anybody wants to do yoga, then the yoga is built in. She also does a Japanese healing called resonance, which is working on the rebalancing from the brain stem. And again, if anybody wants that, then that's available. But there's also lots of time just to be with yourself, which we're really building in that package. And then at the end of it, this part I'm really excited about. The 7 days is really about you connecting to your true nature through the spirit within. And then the 3 days bringing us to the end is where we go on a trek. And it's called the baby trek, so it's not a long one. And we stop along the way with the villagers. So the people open up their home and you go and you live with them overnight and they feed you and so on. And all your belongings are taken and put to the end result of where we're leaving. So everything's taken care of. And I love that idea of that once you're there, you can let everything go. So as Warren says, we've launched it today. It's the 21st to the 30th of August. And any questions, anybody, you can find more about it on our website, which is, I always say, see, my thinking went to tell me, you don't have to say www anymore, but it's 3, the number 3, the letter P, lifesoul.co.uk. And what you will find is, as you go onto it, it's on the front homepage and you can click it and all the information that you need is on there. Any questions, click the button and we'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody has about this. It's not going to be a large, we're not going for masses of people. And I think even if anybody didn't sign up, Tony and I are going to go anyway. It sounds an incredible place to go to. And we know Nikki will be there, so we were saying, okay, we've got that just to hang out. And so we're really excited that we're going to be doing that. So again, if anybody's got any questions, reach out and we'll answer the best that we possibly can to make this possible.
It sounds really good.
Yeah.
I'm going on a cruise in a couple of weeks and it includes Thailand, India, Dubai,
Nice.
Singapore and Oman. So
Nice.
yeah, I'm excited about that. But then
Yeah, I bet you are. That sounds
I've
wonderful.
wanted to go to India and Thailand for ages. They're 2 on my
There you go.
list. So you never know, you might get,
Well,
crazy people.
I think I said at the beginning, mine was I always wanted to go to Tibet and I've always wanted to go to India. And because this is the Tibetan part of it,
it's just perfect.
I've got the best of both worlds there. And I just love, I think the simplicity of people from those kind of countries are much more, and hearing what the Ladakhis are like, because Nikki has been there for 3 years, and she's the type of spirit that she went out to India on a single ticket. And then someone says to her, would you run a B&B? And she did for a year.
Oh,
She just goes wherever where she's blown. And it's just like being around that type of person. It's like, I mean, she's much younger than me, but I'm like, I want to be like you when I grow up. Because she's just so like, and that's what I love about seeing, you know, what this kind of, with the principles, it just allows us to see, like what I said at the beginning, the longevity. We are constantly, while we're on here, we're continually educating ourselves. We're continually learning. We're continually growing. We're continually being more in touch with our spirit like never before, forgetting a little bit and then being even touched even more. And just being around the group consciousness, I think, really allows us to have a lot of fun. So I don't see it as being anything heavy at all, but it's really working on what do we mean by the spirit within and what does it mean to you? And of course, having the 7 days to really do that. Normally we do 3 days of getting groups of people together, but to have 7 days of really just immersing ourselves in that beautiful place in India, and then ending with the trek. And that's almost kind of like the 7 days we're seeing as going in, really being, and then coming out into the world and going on that beautiful trek. So yeah, we were saying today, it was like, shall we just pretend it's August now and go now? But the forum doesn't work that way, does it? No remote controls to allow us to time travel to August. But we're really excited, is what I said. We launched it today. We launched it last night at our meetup group, and we let those guys know first, and then we said tomorrow we put it out there. And I was saying we were really sophisticated because I jokingly was counting down. I've written it on the Facebook page, the 3P Live Soul Facebook page, and the Twitter account, and it says like, okay, let's count down. So I went 10, 9, 8. Nikki was like, oh, it's like New Year's. I says, it's even better than New Year's. We pressed the button, and we were drinking coffee at that time, so we all cheered one another with a cup of coffee. It's like so sophisticated. Nice coffee, but it was still only coffee. So it's yeah, so that's what we're doing.
That is just so
apart from our monthly groups that we're doing in Central Bedfordshire. But also, if you don't mind me saying this, one of the things is I love traveling. So I haven't this year as yet, but I went out to Sweden for the last 2 years and did 3 different retreats and workshops through the year out there. I'm in talks to go to Denmark. I'm in talks to go into Holland. So anywhere that anybody's interested in having me come and speak and share, then Have Legs will travel. So I'm very much into that, because I think really getting this and waking the world up, I think the world really needs Ramdas, I think it is, it says we're all walking each other home. But I think we're all more saying that we're really living from home, and that we have, in all our humility, our natural ability to reach out and shine our light for other people. Because the principles bring more light. The flood is with light. Our spiritual essence is pure light. And the more we experience that light, it just erases our psychological numbness. And seeing that light in other people is the most beautiful gift that we can give. And Sydney Banks, God bless his heart, saw that so clear, that we're looking in the wrong direction. Look is what we're calling it to the spirit within. See how healthy it is. Hear its voice. Feel its vibration. Share it. And see that person join in the dance of life. And if we can all do that, no matter who it is, and we've worked with the homeless, we've worked with female survivors of domestic violence, we've worked with mental health, we've worked with ex-offenders, we've worked with probation, the list goes on. It's all the same. We're all shining the light and hoping that people see their own. And that's where we see the hope that Sydney Banks really was searching for people to see, to end this suffering, this psychological numbness that we're in, to just see us for who we truly are. That woman in her 70s just seeing herself like free, becoming so scared of it, and then laughing herself out of being scared and feeling free again. And she was just sat in the one chair. She didn't move anywhere. Beautiful when we see that.
It is.
And we're not really that complicated.
No.
So what I love about India is that and it's not like, when I joked at the beginning, is that we're saying that people got to India and they go to the highest mountain, they try and find themselves, and then we're asking people to come to India. So it's like, but it's not, it's not that kind of thing. It's like, we just thought, we're going to go anyway. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we invited people? And if you read the blurb that we've put, that's very much our intent. It's not that Tony and I are going to sit there and say, oh, we know the principles. I don't. I do not know what the principles are. And I never, intellectually, of course, we all know what they are. I can say to my 5-year-old niece Scarlett, these are the principles. What are they? And she can repeat it like a parrot. But it doesn't mean that we know. But I know when I reach and I look towards my sacredness, I have a feeling it's so clear that I know you join me there. And that's all I know about this retreat or any work that I do, is I know to see the health in other people.
Yeah.
And that just makes the world a much richer, easier, friendlier place to be in.
It sure does.
And then, of course, I'm coming down later on in the year to spend some time with you guys.
Yes. Brilliant.
I'm really excited. I'm excited about.
That'll be wow good. We can't wait.
And if you don't mind me saying, they've not launched it yet, but last year I was part of a community conference in the northeast of England. And they're doing another one, and it's a beautiful community educational centre in Middlesbrough. And they're really reaching out big time. And there's one day where I'll be speaking at it, Tony's speaking at it, and a woman called Annie Poole. And Annie, for those who comes from she was a head teacher, and her passion is changing education and the principles. And the wonderful, glorious Dick and Bettinger. So I'm really excited to see where the four of us can take that. And we're all talking about the work in community now. We're all community. We put ourselves into subtitles by saying the homeless, mental health, this and that. But really, we're all community. We've lost our sense of community with self.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about where we can take that. And that is on the 25th of May. So if anybody's interested in that, there's information coming out that I will happily share with them. So
brilliant.
Yeah,
Lovely.
So you two have the giggles. So what's the joke?
Are we allowed to share?
Are we allowed to share, Fred?
Fred sent us a picture.
Fred sent a picture of his penguin.
We're always
listening to you.
We're always naughty.
Is it a very wise penguin then?
Very wise.
Show him the picture.
Or maybe it can take the next meetup then.
Yes, we're going to invite
people. Fred's penguin.
Change it to lovely penguin webinar.
Yeah.
Well, that was lovely, Steve. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
It was very nice. I could listen to you all day.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, and we will put the recording on somewhere. Where does it go? On YouTube and Deb's website. I think it goes on at some point, but we might have to wait for her to come back to do that technical part.
Sure.
And next week we have Michael Behan.
The lovely Michael Behan from Birmingham.
Yes, he's going to be our lovely people guest.
Yes. So join us then.
So yes.
Stop
That'll be next
now.
week. Woohoo! We'll stop recording.
Yeah.